that. But I'm not the only instructor anymore. Coyote Bushcraft. We do outdoor survival, wilderness survival, bushcraft, foraging, lots of plant ID stuff, herbal medicines, you name it, we probably teach it. Knife sharpening, tool making, we're all over the place. We're always getting new instructors. Anybody who's interested to come and teach with us. I full-time now, I'm a police officer, and I was in the Mass National Guard active duty for 11 years. I was a weapons expert, weapons nerd. I did all that stuff, but I got too political, so I left. So just a little bit about me and what I do. Cool. So again, I'm Rob. I'm here to instruct you guys today on some carving stuff. And I'm grateful for students and teachers, mainly people who want to get out and do this type of thing and be a part of this whole world that is full of all these weird things that all somehow click together in a beautiful way. So thankful for all the students that want to come here and learn it, be a part of it, and hopefully someday teach it to other people. So we'll get started with some basic tool safety stuff. I'm sure you guys have been through this before, but it's just always nice to hit on it again. As far as knives go, if you guys don't have knives, I have a ton. You're definitely welcome to use mine. But if you do, just be cautious when you're taking them out of their sheaths. I know some people, I've seen it happen, somebody's grabbed their knife like this and pulled it out. Just be cautious that your hand is underneath the opening of the sheath. If you're using two hands to open it up, use your thumb to push it out. With carving, it's naturally everybody wants to do this when they carve. It's very dangerous, especially in the winter time. I just ask that everybody, unless you're super comfortable and super good at carving and you know exactly what you're doing, I ask that you at least attempt to adopt this today, the hammer grip. Over time, as you develop this grip with carving, you're going to end up being way better and more controlled. It takes a little bit of getting used to, and naturally everybody wants to do this. The reason that we don't do this is because when it's really cold out, you lose feeling and you lose control of your fingers. And your fingers are usually the first thing you lose control of. And you'd be carving and your finger can slip forward, and what the human body always wants to do when it makes a mistake is it wants to revert to its position where it was before that mistake happened. Kind of like you fall, you try to lean backwards and balance yourself. Your hand slips, you want to bring it back to where it goes. I was carving with somebody in a Raven Wilderness School class. Their hand slipped, they pulled it back, they cut off almost the entire side of their thumb. They had to get 5 stitches. It happens. I taught it before that happened. So they didn't listen, it happened. And I hate to use it as an example because it sucks that it did happen, but it's real. So just try to stay with that hammer grip, again, unless you are really good with it and you know what you're doing. And additionally, see what I did there? I left my knife and I didn't put it in my sheath when I walked away from it. I did it on purpose because I hate that. I hate when people leave open knives or open saws unattended. Sometimes I do it, I get it, sometimes we're juggling a couple things at once. Try your best not to. It just sucks if it falls off, hits somebody in the foot. A lot of people go barefoot around here. It sucks if something happens, mainly for the person who left the knife there, because you feel like a bag of shit after you did that and your knife fell on someone's foot. It sucks. But just word to the wise. So we're carving. We're just gonna push forward. That's all it is. To maintain the sharpness of your knife, it helps to try to utilize the entire blade. It is hard with these Moras because the handguard is so fat, but try to use the whole blade and use a slicing motion if you want to maintain the sharpness of your blade properly, because the blade is going to dull more evenly if you do that. So it's actually going to be easier to sharpen your knife, and it's going to be easier to strop your knife after that. So
work your way along.
Yeah, just kind of like this. It's a technique that, again, eventually you'll develop it a little bit better and you'll get better at it. It might seem a little awkward at first, attempting to try and go all the way through like that. But in the end, it's just going to make a lot less work for you. What else? When we are carving, I like to try to stay backed up from where I'm starting, because sometimes people can get overzealous and really start going at it and just get the tip of their thumb. It definitely happens. So I like to try to carve at least 1 inch to 2 inches away from my hand. I just like to attempt to be mindful of that. Another thing I absolutely hate to see is this. You know, it's the same thing like with a firearm. If you're at the range and you scratch your head, it's like, what are you doing? Like, yeah, so don't put a knife to your head if you have to scratch, you know. Just put it away real quick, scratch. Or even just put it in your other hand, scratch. Don't put a knife up to your head, please. So every project we do here today, we're going to strip the bark off. Every tree that I'm aware of, with probably the exception of a few, is made up of 4 major components. It would be the wood, the cambium layer, the bark, and the leaves. What we're doing here is we're getting rid of the cambium layer, or we're stopping it from damaging our projects. So the cambium lays between the bark and the wood. The cambium layer will be the first thing to rot. That's what carries all the vitamins and the minerals and the water and everything throughout the entire system. It's kind of like the veins of the tree. And since that's where all that movement is, that's where most of the bacteria is, and most of the fungus will attempt to go through, and it'll rot there before anything. So if you take the bark off, the cambium will dry in and won't be able to work anymore like it should. So if you're making projects that you want to last a little bit longer than they would with the bark on them, that's the way to do it. Also, especially with the fishing spears, if you don't take the bark off of them, over time, and that happens, the cambium's going to dry up, shrink down, and then you're going to have like a loose grip on your spear, which is never a good recipe. One of the cuts that you'll be doing today, and I'll show you in a minute, is the thumb assist cut, like this. You push with your offhand thumb, and that is the most effective version of this. People use this to try to get that extra push and that extra leverage, but you know, it's kind of like counterintuitive. You think this works better in your mind, but it really doesn't. But if you push with your thumb, you get the strength of both arms instead of just one arm. So just push like that, and you can get pretty big chunks off like that. I don't want to see anybody carve with themselves today, or towards themselves today, unless, again, you are pretty good at carving and you know what you're doing. Anything you would have to pull towards yourself for, you can usually accomplish with small stuff like this with that thumb assist method. Like if you have to break through a knot like that, just work through the top of the knot first and then just cut your way down and you'll get through it. With the saws, we won't have much saw work, maybe just a little bit, but when you use them, what I usually do if I don't have a lot of options for like a sawhorse or anything, I'll just come up on the bench and I'll step on it with the middle of my foot and I'll saw like this. If you're holding onto it with your hand, try to have your hand at least like 4 to 5 inches away from the saw. These saws especially, because they're so sharp, and with harder woods, the saws they like to jump around, and it's very easy to like poke your fingers. And I've gotten it a million times where I have like a row of all these little punctures from these, and it's not fun. So it's super easy to just step on this, put your weight on it, and get through it. You see how it kind of jumped like that on me? That's because I put pressure on it. These saws, especially silky saws, are super sharp. You don't have to put pressure on them. Just a little bit of pressure at first so it beds in. And then let it do the work for you. It'll cut in both directions. You barely have to put any effort into this at all. But as far as saw safety, just be careful. Try to keep your hands away from where you're cutting. And then when you fold them, just be careful of that, right? I have saws and I have knives, again, up here for you guys to use. Just make sure you give them back to me, please. So I'm going to have everybody grab one of these from me. If you want to come up.